Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier. So today in this particular video, let us try to understand how we can use Amazon API Gateway as a proxy for DynamoDB. Okay, so basically we are going to learn how we can integrate Amazon API Gateway directly with DynamoDB instead of first sending that request to Lambda and then using Boto3 to do insert, update, delete or query the DynamoDB table. Instead of that, we want to avoid Lambda and we want to make direct connection. In that case, using API Gateway, how we can do that, let us try to understand. Okay. So before going to that, we need to know one thing, that why we require this direct integration, and then we will jump into the lab section. So this API Gateway and DynamoDB direct integration can be useful in different architecture designs. Like here, one particular diagram is showing one order delivery system AWS architecture, where suppose this is our on-prem server or counter, or maybe this is customer app. If suppose from there some orders are made in the backend, basically it will hit an API which is built using API Gateway. So we will be having a resource path with the /orders, so that it will be hitting, and then the customer request will be coming to simple queue service. Instead of directly hitting Lambda, we are keeping a SQS queue in the middle, so that the traffic can be handled properly. Suppose suddenly huge volume of traffic or orders comes from the left hand side, the Lambda no need to do that much concurrent execution if we are keeping SQS in the middle, right? SQS is basically helping in that load balancing. Okay. Now SQS is capturing all those orders, and then eventually Lambda is processing one by one batch. Maybe it is adding some metadata or something, and then it is passing to our step function. In that step function, it is processed via various Lambda functions, is enriching, and then the step function is writing that data in DynamoDB also. Okay. Now the customer has made that order. Now customer need to know what is the status, whether the order is fulfilled or it is in queue state or it is in processing state, etc., etc., right? So now what the customer can do, customer can hit another resource path with same API, that is /status can be the resource path. If we can able to directly integrate API Gateway with DynamoDB, using that particular customer request, we can directly look into DynamoDB table, and if we can query, we can easily understand that what is the state of the customer's order, whether it is processed or whether it is pending state, etc., etc., right? Now suppose customer is checking that the order is complete, then maybe the customer can make another request with the resource path get results, which can fetch the actual results, right? Or maybe if the order is in still processing phase or pending state, customer will check the status after some time. Okay, so here you can understand that API Gateway and DynamoDB direct integration can help to check the current status of the order for that particular customer, right? Not only this situation, there are many other situations where API Gateway DynamoDB direct integration can help us. And here major activity what we are doing, basically using API Gateway, we are querying our DynamoDB table and we are getting the result set. So let's try to understand that particular topic in detail. That is, we will make a request using our API, and that should give us the result set after querying the DynamoDB table. Okay, that's what we are going to learn today in this particular video. Right? So for that, we will be obviously following Apache Velocity mapping template. So if you are already aware of that, well and good. But if you are not having any experience with Apache Velocity, then I will request you to go through my previous video. In the description box, I'll be posting that video link where I discussed about Apache Velocity mapping template in detail. Okay. So first we need one action which can be used to query our DynamoDB table, right? And maybe if customer is querying, the DynamoDB can return multiple result set, right? It might not be a single result. Maybe for example, at a single shot, the customer has made multiple orders. So what is the state of different orders? So that many rows in DynamoDB we should be returning. So for that we can use this particular action for DynamoDB, which is query. So what it basically does, it basically helps us to query our DynamoDB table, and based on our condition, it will return multiple rows, whatever rows is satisfying that conditions, right? Now here, if you scroll below, here they have given the sample request and sample response, using which we can prepare our mapping template and then integrate directly with API Gateway. Okay. So if you see here, this is the sample request. Okay. We need to make a post request, and these are the details, and this should be our actual payload what we should send from API gateway to DynamoDB. Okay. So the important point is table name. So in which table I want to query. Okay. Limit you can put to limit the number of rows what it is returning. Anyway, it is not compulsory, it is optional. Index name is also optional. Then consistent read true, so that consistent read will happen. The projection expression. So what are the columns you want to get? So those you can mention here. Key condition expression. So here suppose in a DynamoDB table ID is one column. So ID equal to some condition, and maybe if you want to apply multiple condition, then another column that should be taking the value between this and this. So this V1, this V2A, V2B, we need to put dynamically. Based on our filter condition, it will be applied here, and based on that, it will return us the result set. Okay. This is basically an expression, and the expression value we are configuring here. Then V1 is string, it should take this particular value. V2A is string, which is basically taking user A value. V2B is taking user C value. So these values will be sitting in these particular placeholders, and then that expression will be applied against this particular DynamoDB table, and it will return us the result set. Okay, right? Cool. So here I have pasted that same sample request, and now before starting the experiment, we need the DynamoDB table, right? So here what I will do, I will create a simple DynamoDB table which will be having the name as class info, and then here it will be having the primary key column as class name, which will be a string type, and then within that particular class there will be multiple students with different roll number. So roll number will be the secondary key. Okay, and then name data, another string dummy column I am creating. Okay, so here I will copy this particular DynamoDB table name. I will go to Amazon Management Console. I will click on DynamoDB, and I will create a DynamoDB table for this particular experiment. Okay, create table name I have given here, and then next thing is we need to configure the primary key, which is class name, which should be string data type, right? So string is configured, it is acting like primary key or partition key, and then within partition key, if there are having multiple elements, it will be sorted based on roll number, which should be number data type. Okay. So here we are configuring number data type, and without any further delay, we will create this table. Now what we will do, using SQL query, we will try to ingest some data in our DynamoDB table. Okay, using partiQL. So here the table is getting created. Let us give it some time. So here our status is active, that is DynamoDB table is created. I will go to partiQL editor. I will paste this, and I will execute these queries one by one, which will insert the data in our class info table. Okay, as simple as that. So here first command is executed. Like that way, I will execute all other insert queries, and we will ingest some data in it. So here all the queries are executed. I will go to tables, and then here if I click on explore table items, here let me refresh. So here see that we got a sufficient good amount of data. Maybe for example, I want to query all the rows which are having class name 1. That is, I want all the student information who are basically in class 1. Then maybe I want to get all the student informations who are in class 2 and their roll number is greater than 5. That is basically this particular row we should be getting as output. Okay, right? So this kind of several queries we might be interested to execute. Now let's see how to do that. So obviously the end goal will be mapping our payload to this kind of format. So we'll do that using mapping template. So if you recall, here I have taken the code which we used in our previous video mapping template, where we integrated API gateway and Kinesis Firehose directly. So here this will use as reference. Anyway, I will come to this later. So first thing what we are going to observe is with one single condition. For example, if I am giving class name 1, so what result set we should be getting? We should be getting one array which should be having all the rows related to our class 1. That is class name 1, roll number 2, roll number 3, roll number 4. That is Sattu, Ranjith, Soham. All these 3 students data we should be getting. Because as per our insert query, there are 3 rows which is having class name as 1. Now we need to map the payload class name 1. This kind of request if the user is making, then we need to map that to this kind of format. So let us do that. So I will copy this one, and then here I will paste that here, and here let's first test with only one condition. Like here we are doing class name equal to 1. So here table name. So what should be our table name? So this I have taken from AWS documentation. As per our requirement, we need to change the table name. So here our table name is basically class info. So I will copy that one, and then here in table name I will paste that. Okay, index is not needed, I will delete that. Limit I don't want to put, I will delete that. Consistent read, it is fine. Now what are the columns I want to get? So here I will take the columns what we are having, that is class name, roll number and name data. So I will paste those here. I will remove their data type. Okay, so here I have given all the columns without data type, and then here the next is key condition expression. Okay, so here we need to provide the condition what we want to filter out. So here we want to filter out based on class name. So here I will put that class name equal to that v1 is the placeholder expression. No more filter I want to put, so as of now I am removing that one. And then here we need to configure in the expression attribute values that what should be the value of v1, right? So here we will configure that. So we no need v2a and v2b, these two we are not using, we are only having one filter condition, so I will keep only one. And then v1 should be taking value. What value it should take? If our payload is like this, it should take the class name value. So how to extract any particular value corresponding to a key from the payload, already we discussed. That is like this way, right? In our previous video we have seen input.json, then $the key name. So we will follow that same format. Input.json, $. Here I will use class name. Okay, right? And then return consumed capacity total. So what is the total amount of consumption of read capacity happened or etc. Those metadata also you will be getting. Okay, right? So more or less the mapping looks good. So we will use this one now in our API gateway template. This is a very simple mapping template, so we are not using Lambda for testing. But if you want to test step by step like what I discussed in my previous video, then obviously first you can make a dummy Lambda which can act like a buffer, that is whatever effect will be passing, that same it will be returning. And then you can check how the mapping template is giving that result after transformation, and then you can go to DynamoDB. But because here we are just using a very simple key mapping, so I will directly use DynamoDB and API gateway. So here first I need an IAM role, so I will create that role for our API gateway. So I'll go to roles, create role. Here AWS service I will choose API gateway. I will select this one. I'll go to next, and then here role name demo API DynamoDB Proxy. Okay, and then here what I will do, I will create this role. So here the role is created. I will go to this particular role, and then here I will attach the DynamoDB full access. Attach the policy. Now we can use the policy to create our API, right? So here I will open AWS Management Console in a new tab. I will go to API gateway and I will create one API. REST API, build, okay, new API, demo test, something name I am giving, create API. And now here we need to configure the methods. Okay, so create method. So you can create a resource path and within that you can create method, but I am just doing without any resource path. So here post request we want to make. Why post request? Because if you see this documentation in the sample request, they are making post call, right? So we need to follow that same. And then here we want to select AWS service. We are doing experiment with North Virginia region, so we will choose US East one. HTTP method, it will be post request. Okay, AWS service will be DynamoDB. We will choose that one. Okay, then action. What action we want to do? We want to query, right? So here I will choose the action as query. Query, and execution role is basically that role what we created. That one I have chosen and pasted here. Okay, right? And here I will save this one. So here our method is created. Now we will go to integration request, mapping template, and then here when there is no mapping template defined, I will choose application/JSON. I will save this one, and now here we need to provide our mapping template. Okay, So along with mapping template, I told that there are two more things we need to give, that is these two values always we should be putting, that is good to have, that is in the header what is the Amazon target and content type. So if you see our sample mapping here, content type is this one. So I will copy this one and here I will be pasting that one. So here this is where we are working. We have pasted that. Sorry, content type we should be pasting that. And then Amazon target, what we are using, that is DynamoDB query. Okay, so we'll use that one only. Cool. So here we have done that. Now we can copy this one and test it out. We have pasted, saved this one, and then here what we'll do, we'll go back and then here we will make a payload request with class name equal to 1. Okay, so we'll click on test and then here in the request body we'll paste that and we'll test it. Okay, here we are getting serialization exception. So let's see endpoint request body after transformation how it is looking. So it is looking good. Only problem is in the expression attribute values. Here you see that two double quotation are coming before one and after one. So we need to remove one. Okay, so basically class name 1, here we are already giving this double quotation. So here it is not needed. I will just remove that one and I will update my mapping template and then we will test it again. Okay. Test it, click on test and see here beautifully we got the data. Okay, I can show you the JSON data properly. So here I have opened JSON formatter, I have pasted that, I will click on proceed. So see here it is first showing the consumed capacity and table name, how many count of rows it is returning, that also showing. Then items it is showing, name data, roll number, class name, name data, roll number, class name, name data, roll number, class name. So 3 records we were expecting and 3 only we are getting. That means it is perfectly working fine, because with the class name 1 in our table we were having 3 records, right? Now the funda is here, if you see that this particular item, it is basically one array, along with that it is returning some other output also like consumed capacity, etc, etc. And might be we are not much interested to this kind of metadata information. We are only interested with the item array, which actually contain the output of our filter query. Okay, after filtering in our table whatever we are getting. So if you want that, in this particular outcome also you can apply a mapping template. Like here in API gateway, what we were doing, when we were sending that request to DynamoDB, in the input side we were applying mapping template. Similarly, when the DynamoDB is returning the response, here also we can apply the mapping template if we want. So I will go to integration request, I will expand this one, and then here mapping template you can see. Here I can add mapping template that whatever DynamoDB will return, on top of that if I want to do some modification and that modified outcome if I want to display, that JSON format we can configure here. Okay, so we just copy this particular one and then here paste it somewhere here. So if you see here, items is basically one array. So we need to iterate in an array and we need to get those result sets only. So it is same like in our AWS Kinesis Firehose what we did, right? In our previous video, we basically iterated in our actual events, which was an array, and then we created one array out of it, which is basically a processed array. So the same kind of code we can use for this case also for mapping the output. So I will paste this one. So here we no need delivery, stream name, etc, etc. So here records, that is fine. So here we need to configure what is our input route. So in our previous video, if you see, we have configured the input route with this kind of code. I will copy this one and then here paste that somewhere here. Okay, and then here we are telling that input route is basically that input array is $.events. But in our case, if you see in DynamoDB, the array name is items. So I will choose items and $.items I will be putting. So this becomes now our array. In that array we are iterating. Okay, and then here we are keeping that as data. So we no need this base 64 encoding and all. So this we used for our Kinesis Firehose purpose only. Okay, cool. So if it is having next data, it is going to the next one, right? So let's test with this particular one how it is looking, and then we will try to modify this further if required. Okay, so here we have pasted this one, we will save this one, and then we'll go back, we'll click on test. Okay, so here we are getting more data. So here basically transformation has some issue. Let's see what is the issue. Okay, cool. So here when you are iterating, it is trying to find out the element corresponding to index position $.events, but actually it is $.items, right, in this case. So we need to choose that one, and then I will copy this one. I will go to integration response, and then here in the mapping template I will update that. Save this one, go back, test it out. So here see, we are getting the data like this way. Okay, cool. I hope you are getting it, that this is the first data element, this is the second data element, and this is the third data element. Even you can move it little bit further. For example, if I don't want to keep this kind of curly bracket and I just want to get the data element, so then in that case it will look like this way. Let's test it out how it is showing in the output. Save this one, go back, test it out. So see, the records are now coming as here array opens and here array close, and this is one JSON element, then comma, this is second JSON element, then comma, then here this is the third JSON element. Maybe I can format it and show you. So here in the JSON formatter, I will paste this one and process. So see here, the records are how it is coming. So here, so these are record, and then it is an array. This is basically first JSON element, then here we are having our second JSON element, and here we are having our third JSON element. So now it is taking the proper shape, right? Now this becomes our API gateway proxy for our DynamoDB table. We can just make a payload request, we can hit our API with this kind of request, and it is returning us all the data elements who are belonging to class name 1. Maybe we can do for class name 2 also, so we can test it out. Okay, so here you will see that in the class 2 there are 2 data elements, so that's 2 it is returning. Okay, right? So we process the output side also, so that the unnecessary elements like how many count of rows it is returning, etc., we removed somehow using this kind of output template. That also we understood. The last point is with multiple conditions. Suppose I want to give multiple conditions and filter out, then how to do that? So it is same what is basically given in the documentation. Like here if you see that we can apply AND condition and we can do different kind of filters in the expression. Okay, so let me show you one such example. What I will do, I will copy this particular template only, and then here with multiple conditions we will be processing. So our previous input template was looking like this way, so I'll paste that and here we will edit. Okay, so suppose for example, if you see our data looks like this. So in the class name 1, who are the students who are having roll number greater than 2? So that means roll number 3 and 4, these 2 rows I want. So along with class name, now I want another filter condition on our sort key also, that is roll number, right? So that kind of activity, let me show you. So here if you see that class name equal to v1, so like here it is showing that we need to put an AND condition, or we can put OR condition also if required, and then we need to give the sort key column name. So in our case the sort key column name is roll name. Actually the column name should be roll number, but somehow it is given roll name by mistake, sorry for that, but this is just a demo, that is fine. Hope you are getting it. Now roll number should be greater than, for example, like following this way only. If you see here how they are creating the placeholder, here they are giving v2 variable or something like that. Okay, you can give any variable, that is not a problem. So here roll number greater than v2. Now in this placeholder what value should be taking, that we need to configure here. So here I will do that. I will copy expression value, this one, I'll give a comma and I'll paste that here. Okay, and then here this should be our v2 value, and then v2 value, roll name is basically a number data type, so I am choosing number, and in our payload it will be coming like, for example, this way. So class name and then roll name also we want to filter. So this will indicate in the class 1, who are the students who are having the roll number greater than 2. Those records I want. So then the user can pass the payload like this way, right? So roll name will be another key. So you'll extract that. So $.roll name. Okay. So that way we can extract this particular v2 variable, which will be getting applied here, and this class name as well as roll name, both conditions will be simultaneously applied. Okay. So now I will copy this one. I will go back to my integration request, and here in the application JSON I will update this one. Okay. So here it is looking good. I will save this one, go back, test it out with this new format. Okay. So now we are passing the roll number. Roll number I am not giving double quotation. The reason is very simple, because it is a number data type. Okay. So here I will click on test. When you are testing, here we are getting no data. Why? So here if you see that class name is one fine, and then roll name is number 2, it is coming. Okay. So here, so actually in DynamoDB, whenever we apply any condition, we need to make sure we are using double quotation. If it is number data type, then also we need to make sure we are giving double quotation. So earlier here in class name we have not given double quotation, because in the payload itself double quotation was there. But when you are giving roll name, that time double quotation is not applied here. So in the payload we need to enclose with double quotation. So maybe that is the issue. Let me just test it out. So if you are sending number data, then also you need to enclose within double quotation in DynamoDB for query. That is one thing. So now let's test it out. So still we are getting no data. Okay. Class name, roll name greater than v2. Here v2 value we are configuring number data type 2. Okay. In our DynamoDB table there are data, right, with class name 1 and roll name greater than 2. Yeah, data is there. So it should be bringing in the output also. Let me just check. Class info is the name, class name, roll name, name data, and class name is v1. Okay, got it. So here basically roll name colon v2 we have to give. Greater than v2, if we give, then the variable substitution will not happen. We need to give colon v2. So here I will just update this one. Save this, go back, test it out. Still we are getting no data. Colon v2. So here double quotation coming somehow. Okay, sorry, by mistake here double quotation came. Copy this one, test it out. Paste this, test. So see here we are getting those two records who are basically studying in class 1, as well as their roll number is greater than 2. Okay, so now our DynamoDB API integration is completely ready. We can deploy this one. So here we will deploy this API. Deploy. And now we can test it out with Postman. Let's test it out. So here I have opened Postman, and now I will copy this particular API URL. Okay. And then here we will make a post request. In the body part, raw JSON data we will pass to get the output. Okay. So for example, this one only, let's check, send the data. So see here that records we are getting Ranjith and Soham. Okay, maybe suppose we are putting class name 2. In class name 2 and roll number greater than 2, how many rows are there? Let's see. So here if you see class name 2 and roll number greater than 2, both records. So if I just run it, so here see roll number 5 and roll number 6 both coming. Maybe suppose we are passing roll number greater than 5. If we want to check, only one row will be getting roll number 6. Suppose roll numbers greater than 6, if we want to check, here we will get no record, right? So here this is how API gateway and DynamoDB direct integration is working, which you can utilize in many system design and building data pipelines to avoid unnecessary lambda in the middle. Okay, I hope you understood this. This is all for this video. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment. Subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed till now. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you.